rhythms in every loop. In the park he struts, hits the handball wall. Echoes hear the stories when the shadows fall. Got 1,000 tales and a comforting grin on the streets of Flatbush where legends begin. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near. He's got the rhythm, everybody cheers. Corner talks and sidewalk chalks his fame. In the Flatbush breeze you'll hear his name. Underneath the subway on the magic's real. Frankie's moves got that electric feel. From Atlantic Avenue to the urban hill, Flatbush Frankie's giving you a thrill. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go.
Testing, testing, testing. Let me know if you can hear me in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me and see me okay in the chat. It's March 16th, 2025. It's 10:03 a.m. on the East Coast of America. This is Coffee with Frankie. I'm the Frankie. This is the coffee. PC Salami says, can hear. All right, good. We got a lot to talk about, of course, in Jetland, a lot going on. Uh, but first and foremost, let's say hello to the chat, shall we? Todd is here. Timing won't be good for him, but he'll put on the Bluetooth speaker. All right, good to hear from you, Todd. Make sure the Aminels are all doing well down on the farm. Matthias, Simon, where do we go from here? Well, we'll talk about that as we move along here. Jojo is here. Uh, PC says, looks like a tank rebuild. Maybe. The great Phil Adams is here. Greetings from the east side of the big pond. That's the Atlantic Ocean, in case you didn't know. It's kind of large. Kind of large. But we have had a bunch of signings this week by your New York Jets. Some good, some bad, some better than others. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the roster. First, we're going to keep our eye on the Twitter machine to make sure, if anything comes across the transom, we know about it right away. So we're going to keep an eye on that as we move along here. No breaking news that I can see as far as the Jets are concerned. The 49ers made an interesting trade last night, in case you missed it. They traded Jordan Mason, their running back. They traded him to the Vikings. And apparently, so I'd say the biggest news in the NFL right now is there's conflicting reporting going on about the Vikings and Aaron Rodgers. The Athletic, and it seems like only the Athletic, which, as we all know, is questionable, is reporting that um, Rodgers is waiting to hear back from the Vikings about whether they'd like to sign him. All other reporting says that's not really the case. The Vikings are kind of mildly interested, but they're not heavily involved. And then you have the Steelers and the Giants who are waiting to hear back from Rodgers. And the idea is Rodgers waiting to hear from the Vikings, and until he does so, he's not going to get back, I guess, to the Giants or the Steelers, whichever one might be his preference. And some of the reporting is saying that the Steelers and the Giants both have an offer out to Rodgers, and it's up to him to decide whether he wants to take it. And that might be holding up some of the transactions that might be taking, although a lot of transactions have taken place already. And, um, but now it seems like some teams are waiting on that shoe to drop. And then, maybe more things will fall into place after that decision is made. There's also some reporting that Rodgers may retire, in fact. Some of the Minnesota Viking people that I follow on YouTube, the knowledgeable ones, not the idiots, are saying there's no way that the Vikings are interested in Rodgers. And so that's the interesting thing to me. I'm interested to see who gets this right, because basically it's the Athletic versus the world on this reporting. There's three reporters, including Duchenne, who are all saying, all based on the Athletic, all saying that the Vikings are very interested in Rodgers. Everybody else is saying, nah, they might have some, small amount of interest, but they're not really interested because they're all interested. They're all in on JJ McCarthy, and they don't want the Rodgers, show, the Rodgers spectacle, you might call it, you know, uh, getting in the way of that, and where they could just sign a nice backup quarterback, as a just in case type of guy like they did last year with Darnold, and just to go from there. We don't, So it'll be interesting to see which side of the reporting this actually comes down on once we find out the truth, to whatever degree we can find out the truth. And so that's really what's going on. That's really probably the biggest news that's hanging around that we're all kind of waiting on. And there have been other reports, from a few days ago saying he's going to let them know by today. He's going to let them know by tomorrow. And then today and tomorrow passed, and we still don't have a resolution to this. So, who knows? We'll see, but it'll be entertaining no matter what happens. Um, John says the only logical choice is the Vikings. I think the Steelers make a lot more sense than the Giants, for example, for him. Um, the Vikings would be good, but the problem is the Vikings want the whole spectacle of Rodgers when they're trying to develop JJ McCarthy, and all indications are that they love JJ McCarthy. He was a top 10 pick. They really feel like he can do it, especially with KOC and all the weapons they have and how they retooled the offensive line, which has also been great for them, by the way. Um, so you bring in Rodgers. What does that say about McCarthy? Rodgers is not just some backup, and Rodgers is not going to sign just to be a backup. Rodgers is going to want to start. So then you're putting JJ on the bench again, and now that's year two of his rookie contract that you say goodbye to. And then what if Rodgers plays really well? Do you want him the next year? And that's year three on JJ McCarthy's contract that you say goodbye to. So it's very complicated. But all indications are that they love JJ McCarthy. Coming back from injury, of course. So I don't know. It's hard to know when you have these conflicting reports as to what they actually are going to do now. One thing to keep in mind, their actions always speak louder than words, and that is very true. People can say whatever they want, but their actions speak louder than words. For example, Zach Wilson, someone we're familiar with. The Denver Broncos had lots of nice things to say about Zach Wilson when the season ended, and some of the reporters picked that up and put that out there, like Daniel Jeremiah. However, the Denver Broncos chose Jarrett Stidham to be the backup to Bo Nix this year, not Zach Wilson. And it's in their interest to talk up Zach Wilson. Why? Because when somebody signs him, like the Dolphins did, that goes into their comp pick formula. So why not talk him up? It doesn't cost anything and could help you get a comp pick. So, and their action said, we prefer Jared Stidham over Zach Wilson. Now, does that mean Zach Wilson stinks? No, no. He could, maybe he'll develop. We don't know. But the point is, they chose Jared Stidham over Zach Wilson. And so in this case, we have to see some action. It doesn't matter what people say. Uh, we got to see somebody do something before we know what they might do in the future and so forth and so on. PC, yeah, I mean, it's the biggest question in the NFL right now. Todd, guess what? The cows have never complained about your show, not even once. Yeah, that's what's great about cows. I mean, let me just talk. Can I talk about cows for a second? Can I talk about cows for a second? Cows are amazing. What other animal? What other aminel? You get milk. Yeah, you get ice cream. You get butter. You get hamburgers. And on top of that, magic mushrooms grow on top of their piles of crap. I mean, these are magical animals. I love me some cows. Now, I'm not going to raise cows. I don't have those skills. We leave that to the Todds of the world. But I love me some cows. They're amazing. Jimmy Jets is here. Good to see Jimmy Jets. The Vikings said they aren't interested. Well, did the Vikings say that, Jimmy? I mean, they have said, of course, that glowing things about JJ, but I didn't see where they said they aren't interested in Rodgers. I mean, there's conflicting reporting out there. Some reporters are saying that the Vikings aren't, but I don't think the Vikings have said that in the press anyways. As far as I know, I mean, unless you know different, Jimmy, let me know. Some reporters have said they're not that interested in Rodgers. Other reporters on the Athletic, which of course is very questionable, as we all know. Diana Rushini is the worst reporter out there, probably at the moment. Although there's lots of bad ones. A lot of competition for that. We should do the Bad Journalist Awards. Now there's an idea. The Frankie from Flatbush Terrible, No Good, Dirty Journalist of the Year Award. How about that? Let me know if you like that idea in the chat. Maybe we'll put together an award. I mean, everybody else gets awards. How about the Dirty Journalist of the Year award for terrible, horrible, no good journalism? And we go to, I mean, this year would have to be Dirty Diana Dushini. I mean, I would think. There's lots of bad ones, though. And these would have to be legitimate journalists, not like nutcases on Twitter. Like, it would have to be people with an actual credential, who are actually involved in the NFL, who people actually listen to. You know what I mean? I think there should be an award for that. We need to highlight these people. PC says, yeah, The Vikings are trying to. The Vikings definitely bulked up the roster. Yeah, they're looking to compete now. And so the question is, with this bulked up roster, they just spent a lot of money in free agency trades. They got their offensive line better, the defensive line better. They just made a trade for a running back. With all that being done, are they going to give the keys over to all of that to McCarthy, who's not a rookie, but is essentially a rookie because this would be his first year playing? Or would they rather have an Aaron Rodgers with a souped up roster, and could they make a run with that? And that's the question that's hanging in the air. Jojo says has to be the Steelers. Now, here's why I think the Steelers over the Giants. If it's between those two, the Giants have problems on the offensive line. Now, the offensive line could be better. I mean, part of it is staying healthy. So, but do you really want Rodgers to play behind a terrible offensive line like they have been the past few years? Now, maybe you're saying, well, they're going to stay healthy. They're going to be better. Okay. But Rodgers behind a bad offensive line is asking for trouble. That's problematic. And he wouldn't want to do that. And you as a team wouldn't want to do that. I mean, you don't want to put an immobile quarterback behind a bad offensive line. The Steelers have a decent offensive line at least. And they just went and got DK Metcalf, and they have George Pickens, and they have Freiermuth. And so the offense is looking pretty good, right? So if it were me and I were Rodgers and I was going to play and I had to choose between the Steelers and the Giants, I'd go with the Steelers myself. Then again, he has a house in New Jersey, so he wouldn't if he plays for the Giants, he doesn't have to move again. And when I say he has a house, he has a mansion in New Jersey. That man does not buy, a little duplex. He buys large homes for the rich and famous. PC says, yeah, Steelers. Nightshade Jones is here. Good to see Nightshade Jones. Personally, I think the Giants are the best place, he says. Okay, they got an early pick, they got neighbors, and they got to run. Yeah, but what about the O line, Nightshade? So my problem is, what about the O line? Now you could say, well, they're going to be better. Okay, but we haven't seen that recently. So they do have some things that would appeal to you, neighbors, the running back. The defense is looking better. They just signed some people for the defensive backfield, so that's looking better. They got a decent. I mean, I think the defense should be good this year for the Giants. They already have good defensive linemen, and they got I forget who they picked up, but they're looking good on the defensive line. Uh, Linebackers, mm, maybe a little shaky, but the defensive backfield got some new pieces, so maybe that's looking good. But my question with them would be offensive line, Nightshade. That would be my question mark for them. Jimmy Jets, it might be logical, but Vikings are moving on from the so-called reports. Well, and you know what, Jimmy? Like if it turns out, I'm watching this closely because if it turns out that we find out, nah, the Vikings never had interest in Rodgers, right? Let's say that's what. Let's say he signs with the Steelers, whatever happens, and then if we find out, no, the Minnesota Vikings were never seriously considering Rodgers, I'm going to go crazy on the Athletic. Not that it matters, but I'm going to highlight the fact that these people are just lying liars who should have their press credentials revoked. Now, it may turn out that they got this one right, but I mean, they've gotten so much wrong over the past few years where things are half truths, things said in jest, things where they interviewed disgruntled people that the Jets fired. Like, let's go talk to people the Jets fired and see what they think about the Jets. That's not good journalism. What do you think they're going to say? They're not going to be too happy about the Jets. They're not going to say glowing things about your New York Jets when they just got fired. And then they say, "Yeah, but we reported what they told us." Yeah, but that's not. That's why it's called dirty journalism because it's in part true. The people did say this. I don't think they kind of make stuff up. I do think they have sources, and those sources say the things they said they said. But you have to give context to everything. Context matters. All the pieces matter. And a lot of people use the reporters to get something out there for their own benefit, and they don't. And these reporters, some of them don't care. John says the goal is to win a Super Bowl. Look at all their free agent moves. They are looking to win a Super Bowl. Yeah. But do they think they can do that with Rodgers or JJ McCarthy? You know, all reports are they're super, super high on JJ. So we'll see. PC says, well, Rossini is a horrible source, but all media hates Rodgers and don't want him to land on a really good team. Yeah, that's true. Green is here. Good to see you, Big Green. Joe Mike says, so glad the Rogers drama is somebody else's problem. An SEP, we call that. An SEP, somebody else's problem. Dirty Diana would have that locked up. Yeah, I agree with this. PC. Harlan Abraham's here. Howdy, Harlan. Joe Mike says, do you really think that the Steelers, Giants, or Vikings will conform their offense for Rodgers? It's all about the cadence. I don't see it, and I don't see Rodgers changing. Well, that's an interesting point, Joe. None of those teams really have what Rodgers is looking for. I mean, there there's a part of me that thinks Rodgers is just going to retire. to be honest. Because even if you include the Vikings, you have Kevin O'Connell, who's basically a Shanahan LaFleur disciple, Matt LaFleur. And if you remember, when Rodgers was with Matt LaFleur in the beginning, he clashed with him significantly, and then they kind of changed, and Hackett got there, and they came up with a hybrid solution, and it worked very well. But in the beginning, he fought with LaFleur, and so O'Connell's system is very similar to LaFleur. Then you go to the Giants. The Giants have Dayball, and Dayball is known for having worked with Josh Allen and having mobile quarterbacks and being a very headstrong play caller and basically coach, and also a hothead temper, yelling at people all day long kind of guy. Does Rodgers really want that? Mm. And then you go to the Steelers, and the offensive coordinator's Arthur Smith, and his system probably, is not something that Rodgers is interested in. So if you look at all the three landing spots, from a scheme perspective, it doesn't seem like there is a good matchup there. And maybe that's part of what he's really contemplating, walking around the beach, with a towel on his back and, um, going, do I really want these situations are not perfect for me. Maybe it's time to call it quits. You know what I mean? So that could be what's going on also. Maybe he's really giving serious consideration to hanging him up, which would really leave. I mean, what? I mean, you got Russell Wilson. What do the Giants do? Let's say Rodgers retires. The Vikings will just sign some backup, guy and go with JJ. And then what would the Giants do? I mean, they got Tommy Cutlets, but what are they going to do? I mean, obviously they're going to. Maybe then they would try to trade up to one to get Cam Ward. I don't know. It seems like the Titans are going to take Cam Ward. Um, where does that leave the Giants? That's really an interesting question. So that's really the big story of the day, I would say, in the NFL that's lingering out there. That really has nothing to do with the Jets. So that's kind of good. EC says, I got though says Rogers doesn't want to go out on such a horrible low. Yeah, that's another good point. He had a good year, of course, in some of the stats, but in the advanced stats, no. So, um, I mean, his last game was good. I mean, the Dolphins weren't really trying, but you know, John, that's why I think he's waiting so long for the Vikings. Yeah, because they have the best situation out of the three. Mm, probably, but I still don't think it's perfect for him with KOC there being the play caller. And plus, KOC kind of like is such a good play caller. Does he want Rodgers changing things at the line? Yeah. Giants then turn to Russell Wilson. So if the Giants get Russell Wilson and Rodgers retires, where does that leave the Steelers? Uh, what's his name? What's the guy they signed? Mason Rudolph. They're going with Mason Rudolph and Drew Lock. Ooh, the Yinzers will be so pissed, man. Mason Rudolph and Drew Lock, everybody. Oh boy. Holy smokes. Uh, but anyway, all right. So after all these moves this week, let's take a look, shall we, at a few things. We got a few things to talk about, but first, let's take a look at the roster. Where does the roster stand at the moment? Nothing on the Twitter machine. All right. So let's bring this up. Let's see. Just to remind ourselves where we are, what happened, who do we have? Uh, let's see if we can bring this up. Let's see if we can move this over. Um, so here's the roster. I think you could see this pretty good. Um, now we have some colors in here. The orange are the free agent signings that we have made so far. Um, hide this. Um, and The gray are the people who are the reserve future contracts. Those are the P squatters. And Jordan Travis is still on the NFI list. And you got blue chippers. So how many blue chip players do we have? That's just on here because of the blue chip theory of 8 to 12 blue chippers that you need to compete for a Super Bowl. Um, so far we have 33 players on offense, and you can see the offense is still looking light. I mean, we still need another wide receiver or two. We desperately need a right tackle, and we also need another tight end. Now, I did a film study on Stone Smart yesterday. If you missed that, I'd highly recommend it. Pass catching tight end looks like a pretty good uh, flyer type of a deal, and so. Uh, check it out. But he's more of a pass catcher. He's not really much of a blocker. Sluggo's here. Good to see Sluggo. Yeah, Italian Stallion. You're welcome. And smash the like button. Yeah, folks who are here, this is something I don't talk about enough. Um, the the like button and hit the like button and subscribe if you're new, and also consider joining the inner circle where you get exclusive stuff. Now, Jimmy Jet says, "Okay, I don't know how to credit Bola Vip Sports, whatever that is. But the first paragraph posted yesterday says the Vikings do not prioritize signing Rodgers despite, yeah, that's what I said, Jimmy. Like, that's the media saying the Vikings don't. That's not the Vikings saying. Vikings saying is when it's in quotation marks. We've had multiple media saying the Vikings basically the same thing as this. That's what we were saying. The media is saying the Vikings don't, but the Vikings have not said anything. It has to be in quotes from Kevin O'Connell or Quasey. But that's what the media is saying, and then you have other media saying they are. So that's the point, is that there's conflicting media reports, Jimmy. That's the interesting thing. And I'll be watching very, 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 very closely. All right. So here we are on the people we got on our team. As you can see, we need some wide receivers. Now, we signed Tyler Johnson. I think that was a good flyer of a signing. He did. He was a decent prospect coming out of Minnesota a few years ago. The trend and the sort of the way that we've been working this year in terms of the prospects, I mean, in terms of the free agents, is that we're prioritizing young free agents, 25 to 28 years old, who have some upside. Tyler Johnson falls in that category. Stone Smart falls in that category. Justin Fields falls in that category. And if they work out, great. You sign them longer term. If they don't work out, no problem. Let them go next year, and you reload. Now, the other thing that's becoming pretty obvious to me that we're going to be running a pretty run heavy offense. This is going to be ground and pound with Justin Fields. We're going to be running RPOs, triple options, and Justin Fields is going to be running a lot. And Brees Hall is going to get a lot of touches. Braylon Allen's going to get a lot of touches. Isaiah Davis, and then when we do throw, of course, Garrett Wilson will get most of the targets. And we need one or two more tight ends. I don't know what this new regime is going to make out of Jeremy Ruckert. Of course, he is part of the Ohio State crew. We got Fields, we got Ruckert, we got Josh Myers, we got Garrett Wilson, we got a lot of we got a lot of Ohio State people here. Um, so Ruckert is part of that. I don't know what the new regime is going to make out of him. Is he tight end one, two, three off the team? I don't know. Depends. But that's what we're going to do. And so the main concerns of mine so far on the roster, of course, right tackle. We need to improve this group, obviously. We need at least one blocking tight end, one more, at least. Uh, and we need another wide receiver. I mean, this wide receiver room is pretty bad. I mean, now maybe the new regime can get something out of Corley. That'd be nice, and I would think that they can, especially with Fields. We'll probably run a lot of shallow crossers and stuff like that that Corley can run. We just have him use his yak ability to break tackles because we don't want Justin Fields really throwing deep all that much, although he does have a strong arm. So he can do that on occasion. For the most part, we want him to just hit nice and easy over the middle and just let the wide receiver do all the work. And so maybe Malachi Corley can do that sort of thing. So maybe that's what they're thinking. And then we got Tyler Johnson. So we'll see if we can make anything of him. Irv Charles is going to start the season almost certainly on the pup list. He had that ACL at the end of last year. He's probably not going to be available until October or November timeframe. Then you got Xavier Gibson and a bunch of nothing up here. So I would anticipate one more minor signing for the wide receivers, and then we'll probably take one in the middle rounds, would be my guess, at least as of right now. So 33 total players on offense. On defense, we're even thinner if you look at it. Only 27 total players. And we're thin. We're still thin at defensive tackle. Cowart and Tufele are not good. Uh, they're just sort of roster fluff. Hopefully, they get cut by the end of it. Um, Same thing with Rashad Weaver. These are not real players. I mean, they should really be cut when it comes down to the 53. Um, and we're a little light on linebackers. Obviously, with Quincy and Jamie, and that's good. But behind them, not a lot of depth. We picked up yesterday Chris Boyd. He's mostly a special teamer. And we signed Cisco and Stevens. We'll see how those guys work out. Um, and hopefully Ahmad Gardner plays better this year and can get the Sauce name back. If you go from all pro to no pro, then you go from Sauce to Ahmad. That's the rules. So that's what he is. Um, but still, I would consider him a blue chipper. So we got, I would say, 5 blue chippers. Of course, Jermaine could become a blue chipper. Maybe Michael Carter could have a bounce back year. He was on his way to being a blue chipper and played injured all last year. So, um, so that took a toll on him. Hopefully, he stays healthy this year and plays back to his normal self. That would really help the defense a lot. But we had a lot of work to do back here. I would expect one or two more defensive tackle signings and maybe another edge. But you can't expect to get a lot of things out of the draft. I mean, we got 8 total picks. If we get 3 impact players, that's a good draft. 4 is a home run, amazing draft. That's only 3 or 4 players. We still got a lot of holes going on here. Now we did sign a punter the other day, Austin McNamara. So we don't know what the plan is for Morstead. Could be just competition or a just in case kind of signing, or it could mean that they want to cut Morstead and save the money and use it on something else. So we'll have to see about that. Zerloin is still here, and of course Hennessy as the long snapper. And that leaves us with a total of 64 players on the roster. Of course, we eventually had to get that to 90. There'll be at least 8 unless we make some trades. Um, Kids coming in from the draft. So that'll get us up to, 72, which means we got a lot of signings yet to occur. And this will just grow and grow as we move along. But this is where we are with the free agent signings. And I'm starting to see the plan of Muji. Still do not like the signing of Okorafor at all uh, whatsoever, and I'm very down on Weaver, Cowart, and Tufele. But hopefully, these people are back of the roster people, and we're going to sign some higher quality people. Like Jedrick Wills is still out there, Mo Ali Cox is still out there, and hopefully, we can sign a high quality defensive tackle or two, and then we'll be in pretty good shape for the draft. Pretty good shape for the draft anyway. So let me know what you guys think about this roster, the way it's laid out. What do you think? Let me go through these comments here. Jojo says, I think our first 3 picks will be offensive. I don't think so. I think if I had to guess, if this was the roster, it's not going to be, but if this was the roster with the same amount of holes, I would think the first pick is offensive tackle, second pick is defensive tackle, third pick depends who's there, but probably safety. Like what if the what if it went, we got Membu and then Alfred Collins and then Xavier Watts. That'd be pretty good. That'd be pretty good. Well, Adam says, young, hungry with upside isn't the worst plan to have, but as Jets fans, it'll make us nervous until it pays off. Well, this is the thing to keep in mind. I think what they're trying to do is thread the needle of rebuilding without going through a full rebuild, Phil. What they're doing is they're taking a chance with Justin Fields, right? So Justin Fields represents basically a three-way go. There's a couple of things that can happen. They're going to have to run a specific type of offense with him. It's not going to be the Goffense that they ran in Detroit. So that's a plus as far as coaching staff adaptability and flexibility. But they're going to have to run that, and then we're going to see if it works. And basically, so if Fields can develop and progress, and a lot of people in Pittsburgh were saying, "Wait a minute, he is progressing. We should stick with him." A lot of people in Pittsburgh really wanted to stick with Justin, what he was doing there. Um, and So let's say that continues, and let's say he has a breakout year, a la Gino and Darnold say. Well, then we go, okay, great, we got our guy, perfect, and we go, great, we're winning, he's doing great, fantastic. Let's make him the franchise quarterback, and let's go. And so that's option one. What if that doesn't happen? Well, if that doesn't happen, and he's just playing okay and not terrible, but we're not winning, we're below 500, we're a 5-6 win team, something like that, then that's okay. Then Justin becomes a backup next year, and we go all in for one of the big quarterbacks next year, whether that's Aller or Sellers or Nussmeier, whoever winds up being on top next year. Impossible to project at this point, but it'll be, at this point, those are some of the top guys. And we put all our chips in for one of those guys, and we say we've built up the team uh, enough to feel comfortable, going with a a rookie, but you also have Fields as the backup. So if the rookie's not ready, you go with Fields for a little while, and then you hand it to the rookie when he's ready. Sort of what the Patriots did with Drake May and Jacoby Brissett this year, right? It was Jacoby Brissett at the beginning of the year. Eventually, Drake May was ready, and away he went. So, so to me, I think given the circumstances of what we could have done this offseason, once the decision was made not to go with Rodgers, this was probably the best course of action. It gives us the most options going forward for success um, that we could have given the circumstance that we were in. And these young guys that we're signing, like Stone Smart and Tyler Johnson and Andre Cisco, these are mostly 1 year deals that they're getting. Stevens got a 2 year deal, reported as a three, but I think the first 2 years are going to have the guaranteed money. So it's essentially a 2 year deal. But we're not locking ourselves in long term to these guys. Let's see how they do in the offense and defense. And if it turns out they surpass all expectations, okay, extend them then. But you're not getting locked in case they stink or, it just doesn't work out here. You're not getting locked in. So I can start to see the philosophy taking shape, which is good because that's what I like to do. Uh, EC says, we have one good wide receiver, really. Yeah, but remember, we're not going to be running the same offense. So it's going to be ground and pound, ground and pound, ground and pound. And then we're going to do a lot of play action. And then Garrett's going to be open. And Corley, hopefully we can get something out of Corley. And I think that's a big question mark. But in this type of offense, you should be able to get something out of him. And then Tyler Johnson is a name not a lot of people know, but he's actually pretty decent. Now he's not going to put up numbers. We're talking about roles here. This is not going to be an offense that has 2,000 yard wide receivers. It's not going to work. We're going to be running too much. It's going to be ground and pound. So what we would hope is that obviously Garrett is our main target, but that these guys can do enough to keep him from getting double and triple teamed a lot of times. He's always going to be double teamed no matter who the quarterback is. He's Garrett Wilson. That's his lot in life. When you're that good, you get double teamed. Sorry, you're gonna have to beat it. That's just the way it is. And if you want to be considered one of the best, you got to beat those double teams a lot of the times. It's just the way it goes. Joe Mike, I understand the bargain bin signings, but explain to me why the Jets weren't aggressive with signing Evan Ingram for tight end and Jester Reed. Smart and Cisco are number 3 on depth chart at best, not once. It's because they're not going to the top of the market for these guys. And plus, so Evan Ingram is an interesting player. I think that was a great signing for the Broncos. So Evan Ingram's going to play the Joker role for Sean Payton, and that's the perfect guy for that. So the match between the offense and the player and the play caller and the system and the quarterback was perfect for Evan Ingram. I don't think Evan Ingram was coming here under any circumstances, Joe, because he had a perfect situation in Denver. It's absolutely perfect as long as he can stay healthy, which he's had some trouble doing. Um, but if he can stay healthy, it's perfect for him. Absolutely perfect. He wasn't coming here to play with Justin Fields, and he just wasn't. It's just not. We're not ready to attract that type of player because that type of player has made some money in the league. It's known what he can do, pretty well known, and so now he can be choosy. What's the best situation for me? And Denver was by far the best situation for him. So he wasn't coming here no matter what. Justin Reed, I don't think he wanted to come here. Justin Reed, I think, is from New Orleans. There's going to be a lot of players who don't want to come here, Joe. That's just the way it is. I mean, sometimes people get mad at me when I make a video and they say, Frankie, don't you know some people aren't going to want to come here? And then it's like, yeah, I say that almost every day. Kind of funny. But, and, but then there's other comments like this from Joe where it's like, why doesn't this guy want to come here and that guy? Well, not every guy wants to come here. We got to keep that in mind. We got to, we don't have the pick of the litter. That's why the important thing is getting the system and the program in place. And we have to hope. This is what I said when Robert Saleh got hired. We have to hope that AG now, same thing with Saleh, and Muji, same thing with Douglas, are smart enough to get their program in place to where we can start winning and where people can see what we're all about. And then we can get the kind of players who fit what the hell it is we're all about. And it includes winning. When you're not a winning team, when you're in the ghetto, Joe, as I've said 10,000 million times, when you're in the ghetto of the NFL, for those who don't know, I think the NFL is a city, and you got your ghetto, you got your middle class neighborhood, you got your gated community. The Jets are in the ghetto. Not a lot of people want to come to the ghetto and hang out. There's not a lot of people who want to just chill in the ghetto when they have an opportunity and a choice to go to the middle class neighborhood or the gated community and play for the teams in those communities, right? So that's the problem. We could make offers to Evan Ingram all day, but it makes no sense for Evan Ingram to come here when he has a chance to go with um, Sean Payton up in Denver. It makes no sense at all. So we got to think about the choices these players have, the optionality, the opportunity for them, what makes sense, who wants to win, who wants to maximize their earnings, where are they in terms of that, and the fact that we're starting over. Nobody knows what we are yet, except they know we've been in the gutter for the last 14 years. That's what they know. The gutter, the ghetto gutter for 14 years. That's what they know. We haven't established who we are, what we are at all. We haven't done anything. We just got new everything. So we're getting started on that. So we're not going to get people like this. We're not. So you got to grade these things on a scale. Now, is Andre Cisco going to work out? Uh, if I had to guess, I would say probably not, but it's a good flyer to take. I watched the tape on him, Joe, and he does some good things. Is he perfect? No. Is Justin Reed better? Yes. But Justin Reed has a lot more choices, and he chose to go. I think he's from New Orleans. So he went home to New Orleans. That's another thing. A lot of these players want to go back down to the South. The other thing we talked about this so much, Joe. Like most of the players, most athletes come from the South of the country. They come from Florida, they come from Louisiana, they come from Alabama, they come from Texas, they come from California. Um, they don't come from New Jersey. And so when they get a chance to go home, they want to go home. And a lot of players from the South love the South. The South is way, way different than New Jersey or New York City, et cetera. And a lot of these guys, they don't want to have anything to do with the northeastern part of the country. They want to go home to the South. And you can't blame them. If you're from Louisiana, if you're from New Orleans, you want to go there. It's a very unique culture. Think about New Orleans. I personally hate the city, but it is very unique. And if you love it, then that there's nothing like it. It's a unique place. Uh, I don't personally like it myself, but I'm not from there, and it's not my type of thing. All right, but some people do love it, and so that you can't find the things that are in New Orleans anywhere else, and so it's just the way it goes. So we got to always grade on a scale, considering the Jets are in the ghetto until we're not, until we can claw our way out of it. Mm. C says, does Muji think Zerline will bounce back? Why no kicker brought in? Well, we don't know what Muji thinks of the kicker at the moment. We'll know when he makes a signing. He's not going to tell us what he thinks. As of right now, he's the only kicker on the roster, PC. Uh, so that's what we know. He has not made a move to sign another kicker so far. Gluggo, did GM Muji ever play ball? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He played in the NFL and he played at San Diego State. Guess who else was at San Diego State at that time? He was a quarterback who then eventually moved to wide receiver. So that's how athletic he was. He was a quarterback when he showed up at San Diego State, and eventually he played quarterback a couple seasons. Then eventually they moved him to wide receiver. Then eventually he was a UDFA in the NFL. Stuck around on some practice squads. I don't think he played in a game, but he was on practice squads in the NFL. But when he showed up at quarterback at San Diego State, guess who was there? Kevin O'Connell. And in fact, the two were roommates. And also there at that time, Tanner Engstrand, ROC. Trav has it. There you go. Good to see you, B. Trav. Jets and Giants. Good morning, Frankie. They definitely need a playmaker at 7. Disagree. If they don't move back, no. If things the way they are now, I would say. I mean, I don't. I like Tyler Warren, of course, but if things remain the way they are now, I'm going offensive tackle at 7 myself. We cannot go into a season with Max Mitchell, Carter Warren, and Jukes Okorafor. We cannot. We cannot. We cannot. Not with this offense. We're going to be ground and pound, folks. So to be ground and pound, you need blockers. Now, I can see the case for Tyler Warren because he helps with that. The tight ends block, and he's a good blocker. So I mean, to me, that's really the only, kind of discussion. It's not Tet McMillan. No way. There's no way we're wasting a pick on Tet McMillan in this offense with Justin Fields. No. I mean, what good would it do? We're just not. This is not going to be a wide receiver offense. If anything, we should spend. You know who's going to get a lot of receptions? Jets and Giants. You know who's going to get a lot of receptions in this offense? Brees Hall, Braylon Allen. We're going to be throwing to the to the running backs a lot, and that's a good thing. We didn't do enough of that over the years. In the tight end, so you can make a case for Tyler Warren in my book, but you cannot, in the way I see it right now, until I see something else. You cannot make the case for Ted McMillan. I don't think we're going for Ted McMillan at all. Tyler Warren, he's in play because he helps you in the run game as well as the pass game, obviously, as a tight end, right? So, but I would think it's offensive tackle, second round defensive tackle, third round probably safety, something like that. Uh, no, absolutely not, Jimmy. I disagree with this. I think you have to prioritize offensive tackle in round one myself. Now, I will say I am biased. I do not want to take a chance on some third round schmo. That's what we did with Mitchell and Warren, by the way. That was what we did with these two knuckleheads. Not for me. For me, I'm spending a first round pick on offensive tackle. For me. Now, I am biased, and I love offensive linemen, so I will say I'm biased. But if you think about it, Fashanu first round pick, Titman first round pick, Vera Tucker first round pick, Simpson, I don't know where he was taken, but he was not a first round pick. So for me, I want to make sure I get someone who's at least I hit a double with them. It doesn't have to be a home run, but I want to be sure I can hit a double with this. It's so important to me. To me, and again, and I guess I might be in the minority, Jimmy, of commentators, but to me, the root cause of success for an offense is the offensive line and the blocking in general, which includes tight ends and running backs and wide receivers to a certain extent. But to me, you have to have the offensive line. And think about the way Detroit built it. Detroit's first pick was Penei Sewell, and then they continued to build the offensive line, and then they added wide receivers and playmakers and so forth. They got Demonra St. Brown in the fourth round, or something like that, I think, third or fourth round. And to me, I think AG and Mooj are going to look at that and go, yeah, that's the way to build it. You build the wall first, you establish the run, you beat the living daylights out of people, and then you establish your identity, and then you pass off of that. That's kind of how I'm seeing this. And I like it. That's for me, that is a good plan because the way I kind of like what Jim Harbaugh said. He said, we kind of look at offensive linemen as weapons. We, we consider offensive linemen weapons because they were asking him, are you going to pick an offensive lineman or a weapon last year? And he said, we think of offensive linemen as weapons. And who do they pick? Joe Alt, great pick. Joe Alt, delete. And so, uh, and that's how I look at it. Your offensive linemen are the root cause of success or failure of the offense. You got to have them. No one else can do their job unless they do their job. All the other jobs on the offensive field, on the offensive side of the ball, are dependent upon the offensive linemen doing their jobs. No one else can do their job if the offensive line does a poor job. To me, you got to get that right. And I am not waiting to the third round to get an offense. No, sorry, Bob, not me. Now I understand I'm biased, and I understand what you're saying here, Jimmy. Asking me, GM Frankie, no, no. It's offensive tackle is at 7, no matter what. Now, if we sign Jedrick Wills, that changes. Okay. But I'm saying if the roster looks like this, something similar to this with this big of a hole at right tackle, nope. I'm taking Membu, or I'm taking Campbell, or I'll reach for Banks. I don't care. you know, for me, that's how I see it. And I think also that that's how AG and Tanner and Muji are going to think about it also. I think. I mean, they're new. We got to see what they do. But for me, that's how I see it. Harlan says Jets should see something out of Corley this season. Remember, last season the coaching was bad. That's true, but we also don't know what the hell. They wouldn't tell us what the hell was up with Corley. If you remember, they said he's got to be more professional, but they didn't tell us what the hell that means. What are they talking about? Be more professional. What was he doing that was so unprofessional? You know what I mean? What the hell was he doing? They didn't tell us. I would like to know. You know, was he coming into the meetings moonwalking in a tutu? What was he doing? But nonetheless, he didn't get on the field, and that's not good because Sean Jefferson is a good coach, and he's still our wide receiver coach. If he was so good and should have gotten on the field, where was Sean Jefferson pounding the table? Everyone thinks Sean Jefferson's a good wide receiver coach, I think, and this regime kept him, Coach Jefferson. So how come Coach Jefferson A couldn't coach him up to be better, and B, if he's good enough to get on the field, why wasn't he pounding the table? Now maybe he was. I mean, we don't know. Maybe he was pounding the table, and stupid Hackett was like, "No, he's not getting on the field," or stupid Ulbrich, or stupid Sala, or one of these people. I don't know. But I'd like to know the story. I would love to know the story of Malachi Corley because all we ever heard out of from that kid is that this is the hardest working kid you've ever seen. He's going to put in the work. From a high schooler, he was putting in the work at all hours. He was working on the high school field. This kid, and he just kept growing and working out and getting bigger and bigger. This kid is just, going to just light it all up. I mean, all we ever heard was positive stuff about this kid's character. Then he gets to us and he's not acting professional. What does that mean? Exactly. Can somebody tell me what that means? What was he doing? I mean, we saw one video where he was taking copious notes, and Garrett Wilson was kind of making fun of how he was taking the notes. He had like, I don't know, he was circling things. I don't know. But nonetheless, he's there taking notes in the meeting. You're supposed to do that. I, I don't get it. Can someone explain it? I mean, and he was projected to be a third round pick. We got him in the third round. That's a premium pick, and the kid has talent, and he's had good character and work ethic his whole life. So I'd like to know what the hell's wrong with Malachi Corley. I'd like to know personally. And if he can be a productive player, well, then the wide receiver room's looking better, anyways. Looking better, not great, but better. So I'd like to know. I'd like to know. And that's the one major coach that we kept. Sean Jefferson. We kept a few of the other minor coaches, but say minor, I mean quality control and so forth. Yeah, be Trav. That's the way it is. When the Jets are a punchline, league wide players won't come. And what's a way to change that, right? So this idea of being a ground and pound, we're going to punch you in the fucking mouth. We're going to fight you in the parking lot. We're going to fight you in the wherever it takes. We're going to just beat the hell out of you. That's a way to change that, right? I think what we want to be is the team nobody wants to play. We may not have the most talent. We may not have flashy, shiny things. We may not be the greatest show on turf, but we are going to punch you in the fucking mouth all day long until you're tired and you can't help it and you're bleeding and you want to cry uncle. That's what I think we want to be because that's what we can be. If you think about it, it's hard to get really good wide receivers to come here. It's hard to get high profile tight ends to come here. It's hard to get the greatest quarterbacks on earth to come here. So then what can we do to win? What can we do given our circumstances? Given that we're playing and living and we're having the facilities in New Jersey, what can we do? Well, that's what we could do. We could just ground and pound you to death and have a defense that's so tough and mean and so strong and violent that you do not want to play us at any point in time. May not be the greatest team on earth, but you don't want to play us at any point in time. I think that's what we're aiming for. So I don't think we're going to get high profile wide receivers. Can I get a wide receiver or two that can block? Can I get a wide receiver or two that I could insert into the C gap when we're running duo to kick out the defensive back, get the hell out of here, defensive back, and get get him on the ground so I can open up a big hole for Brees Hall to run through? Can I get that? Because those type of guys don't cost a lot of money, and those type of guys you can get to come here with some money because they're not highly sought after. So if you think about it, if we prioritize blocking, which is the most important thing in football, those guys, for some damn reason, generally don't cost a lot of money. And therefore, if you give them, above what their market value is, they'll come here. And now you got something. And maybe, just maybe, AG is going to run a fundamentals driven team. Fundamentals, alignment, assignment, uh, technique, and fundamentals. Alignment, assignment, technique, and fundamentals. That's the basics of football. And maybe, just maybe, we're going to major in that. We're going to coach these players up. Whoever's having a problem, we're going to actually coach them. as opposed to the previous staff, which were a bunch of cowards and lazy people who, if somebody was having a problem, they just ran away from them and said, well, this person's not elite. No. What we need is coaches who run toward the players who are having a problem. They should wake up and say, oh man, somebody's having a problem. This is awesome. I get to teach Marcus Riley. I get to teach Xavier Gibson. I get to teach Malachi Corley. This is amazing. I can't wait to get to the facility. That's what you need. You need coaches who run toward the people who are having a problem. You know, Jeremy Ruckert is talented and having a problem. Great. I can't wait to get to the facility today to work with Jeremy Ruckert to help him fix his problems. That's what we need here because that's really the only way. We're never going to compete with Miami on, tempered on the weather and state income tax and how beautiful it is in Miami and the grass field that they play on and all of that and the fact that a lot of players are from Miami or around Miami or certainly from Florida, so they want to go back home. We can't compete with them on that. And they're in our division for some strange reason, which makes no sense. But so how can we compete? And if this is the plan that Muji and AG came up with, I'm down for it. Now we got to see it play out, and signing Chooks Okorafor was not a good way to start out, in my opinion. But some of these other signings do make a lot of sense, and like Rashad Weaver does not make sense. Tufele Coward, I'm not excited about those, to be honest with you. But some of these do make sense, and so if that's the way we're going, then I'm happy about it because it's probably the only chance we've got, given our circumstances. Right, B Trav? And then if we start to do that and we start to win, it's got to go back to winning. Then you could start to see some more higher profile guys wanting to come. Yeah, this is a little surprising, B Trav, to be honest with you. I put something out on Twitter that AG as recruiter isn't looking so hot right now. Everybody thought we were getting a bunch of Lions guys. I mean, if we go back to let's go back to Will Parkinson. We worked on this. Let's look at Will Parkinson's predictions. For example, now Will Parkinson is a guy who's clued in. He has a lot of insider information. He's considered an insider. How many of these did he get right? Well, he got Justin Fields right. Okay. Craig Reynolds, wrong. Josh Palmer, wrong. Tim Patrick, wrong. Ryan Kelly, wrong. Matt Burt, wrong. Dan Skipper, wrong. Charles Omenihu, wrong. Levi Onwuzurike, wrong. Zach Cunningham, wrong. Ifeatu Melifonwu, wrong. Julian Blackman, wrong. So he got them all wrong. Now, this is an insider. Well, this is Will Parkinson's predictions of who he would sign. He got everyone wrong, including 1, 2, 3, 4 former Lions that didn't come here. Now, I thought we would get similar. I'm not hitting on Will Parkinson at this moment, even though he's from Cortland and fuck Cortland for dead forever. But nonetheless, um, it's a little weird. I mean, I think everybody kind of thought something like this is what would happen, and it didn't happen. So I don't really know what to make of it, B Trav, to be honest with you, because it's reasonable. Now, I don't know why he had Craig Reynolds here, but Palmer and Patrick were reasonable. Pert was reasonable. Omenihu was not reasonable. Onwuzurike was the one I didn't get at all. So this is the one I'd be concerned with. He got a 1-year deal for $5.5 million from the Lions. We couldn't do better than that. Now maybe he just really didn't want to come here. It's possible. But he's 27. The projected cost was 4.5. He went for 5.5. We couldn't do better than that. We couldn't give him 2 years, 14, 15 million. So that's one I didn't quite get. And on the same day, we also signed Chooks Okorafor, and that's when I lost my friggin' ever-loving mind on Twitter. But, I mean, Melifonwu, I thought for sure we're getting. Well, he went down to Miami. So, and we did not get Julian Blackman. We got Brandon Stevens. So this is a mystery. Now, the re-signs, he got Sherwood right. Everyone had that. And Adams and Oliver right. He thought we would re-sign all these people. I told you this is way too much money, so we're not doing all this. I was right about that. We did retain Adams. We did retain Oliver, and of course Sherwood, and that's it. So he got a lot wrong. So even the reason I'm saying that is the reason the even the experts like Will Parkinson, who has insider knowledge, he's an insider, I would say, got a lot of it wrong. So I don't know what to make of that. On the one hand, you could say nobody wants to follow AG. That's no good. On the other hand, the other way to think about it is a lot of these coaches do lazy scouting, where their scouting is, oh, I know this guy from previously. So let's just get him. Well, what have you evaluated all the other alternatives? No, but I've been with him, so let's just get him. So maybe Muji and AG are taking more of a scouting approach and they're just getting the best guys they can and not just guys that they know from their previous job because that happens a lot. You've seen it up in New England. Vrabel's bringing in a lot of his old guys. You see it all over the place. Dan Quinn, everybody does it. Salah, that was one of the problems with Salah. He would just bring in ex 49ers no matter what. So um, I'm of two minds. We'll see how it plays out. Either it's nobody wants to play for AG, which I find hard to believe with as much praise as he got from just about everybody. I mean, you did not hear a bad word from anyone, and people were praising this guy to the high heavens. Or AG and Muji are just like, no, we're not bringing in guys that just because we knew them before. And if that's the case, and it's a scouting thing, and they're scouting for very particular things, it's particularly on offense. If you look at the offense, it's starting to become clear. The defense is still unclear at the moment, but you know they're not going to go for these high-priced wide receivers. They're going to go for low-priced guys who can do certain things, like block, which doesn't cost as much. And maybe it's just a scouting thing where they're going to scout everybody and just bring in the best available for our situation, regardless of whether they knew them from the Lions or the Broncos or whatever. We have not even brought in one former. I think the one guy that was is the punter. I think the punter was on the, if I remember right, the Broncos practice squad. That's about it. He's the only guy who has any connection to AG or Muji. So, as far as I know, um, so yeah, it's either one or the other. B Trav. So it depends on if you want to be pessimistic or optimistic. At this point, let's be optimistic. Let's be optimistic and hope it's the scouting background that Muji and AG have. And they're saying we're not playing by the same old rules. We're just where we just bring in guys because we used to have them on our old teams. So that's that. So Mayer is no, he's not a free agent, Sluggo, but it's been rumored that he's on the trading block. And the question is, what kind of price do the Raiders want for him? If they wanted a fifth round pick for Mayer, I would do that deal in 1.5 seconds. If they want a fourth or a third, no, siree, Bob. He was taken in the second round, so he's on the trade block. We'll have to see what they want for him. Can we get a big wall for our ghetto? Well, you don't want to put a big wall. Walls keep people out, Big Green, but they also keep people in. So you got to be careful. We want to escape the ghetto eventually. Eventually, we want to get out of the ghetto, Big Green. I mean, that's Salah had mid player. Yeah, exactly. Guys more than the market. Yeah, I mean, so I went on a big diatribe about that already. We haven't signed any. Yeah, so we talked about that. No, so for me, Phil, no. I will tell you a guy. There's a guy called you- God, now Jackson Hawes. Is Dom in the chat by any means? Dom or Chaos in the chat? Jackson Hawes. Man, there's a lot of comments. This is going to take a while. Jackson Hawes is a guy. Now here's a guy. So now Triple O could be all right, but he's not generally considered as um, solid a prospect as Membu, Campbell, Banks. But there's a guy called Jackson Hawes that you can get in the fourth, fifth round, and he is a blocking demon, right? So we have maybe they think Ruckert. Hopefully, we can get something out of Ruckert. And but also, you saw my film study on Stone Smart. He's a good pass catcher. If you add in a Jackson Hawes to block his butt off, which you can get in the fourth, fifth round, now you have a tight end room that's not going to be good from a fantasy football perspective, but maybe perfect for the offense we want to run, you know, because Jackson Hawes is just a bulldog. And then if you had, let's say you get Membu, then you get Collins, then you get Watts, then you get Hawes. I think that's his name, Hawes. I mean, now there's a team. Like we can run the damn ball, and then from running the damn ball, you do play action, and then you make it easier for Fields to complete passes, which is part of the idea. Um, and then you can stop the run because you have a really good defensive tackle next to Quinnen Williams, and you take it from there. But I don't want to take a chance with offensive tackle. I don't. I want a first rounder. Now, those guys are still chancy as well. You can never count on somebody being great, no matter what round you take them in. But it seems like a guy like a Membu, for example, is going to be a solid double at least in the NFL, at least as a floor. And that's the kind of guy I want. I don't want to take a chance, me personally. But that's me. That's GM Frankie. Other people have different views, and that's okay. But for me, I build the wall first and foremost and worry about finding other guys later for other things. So I want to put my resources into that, including first round picks. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. Pip was second round. Oh yeah, was he? Oh yeah, yeah. I got that wrong. Sorry about that. Which is even better. Even better. Looking through these, yeah, I like Membu, so I would say Jimmy. For me, it's Membu or Campbell are fine. Banks is a reach, but for me, I would reach. So to me, Campbell and Membu are worth the seventh round pick for me. Now, other people may see it different. He says, I also like to know, yeah, I think we get fed so much BS from teams and media. Yeah, it's hard to know, right? Because we might not ever find out, PC. I mean, nobody, who knows? Nobody might ever talk about it. I don't know. But it'd be nice. I mean, but there's only so much the reporters can do trying to ascertain the truth. And of course, the truth is tricky. What's true from somebody's perspective is false from somebody else's perspective. And that's why you kind of got to triangulate and get multiple sources. But the reporters and the dirty journalists we have now, they don't do that. They just, somebody said something and they say per source. Then if you say, hey, that turned out to be wrong, they say, well, the source got it wrong. I didn't get it wrong. The source got it wrong. I told you it was per source, right? So the per source is their get out of jail free card. They just say it's per source. I told you it was a source, right? Source got it wrong. I didn't get it. Source got it. Says, I agree with right tackle in round one, but I think we need one of those quality tight ends in round two. Yeah, I don't think so. For me, again, I'm different. I'm pretty much set myself. Offensive tackle, defensive tackle, and then start thinking about tight ends. For me, especially since you can get a blocking tight end later. That's the way I think about it. But other people think about it differently, for sure. You didn't want those X lines. Well, it's hard to imagine that. Levi Onwuzurike is really good. Um, I mean, Cam Davis just went for too much money. I'm sure he would want him, but he went for top of the market dollars. So we'll just have to see. Aunt Jet is here. Aunt Jetsy gives me a super sticker, 9.99 super chat. Thank you very much, Aunt Jets. Hair character bowing down, saying thank you. So that's what's interesting, Aunt Jets, is that I get something on Restream that says pair bowing pair character bowing down, saying thank you. So you're welcome, Aunt Jets, and thank you very much for the super chat, 9.99. That's the highest super chat of all time on this renewed channel here. So I definitely appreciate that, Aunt Jets. And let me know if you have a question or something. Jimmy says AG might see something in these current signings that say they are in the same category of their former players than less. Okay, that's what we're hoping, and that they fit into this particular scheme. So again, we're not running the Goffense, for one thing, because Justin Fields and Jared Goff are opposite type of quarterbacks, and Tyrod can run the Fields fence, the Justin offense. So Tyrod and Justin, you could do the same things with them, and so can Jordan Travis, by the way, if he's healthy. There's no reason he can't, yeah, as long as he's healthy. Um, so it may be that these players fit this offense better, and that's great. I'm hoping that's the case because that's what we've all wanted. We don't want coaches who just have a system and then whatever players they get, they go, well, you got to fit into the system. I'm sorry. Well, but I can't do those things. Well, you got to fit into the system. I'm sorry. Like that's stupid. we want we want coaches who build the system around the players that you do have and the skill sets that they do have. That's what they need, I think, in my opinion. And it seems like so far, seems like uh, that's what we're doing. So I'm to some degree, I'm happy. I was not happy with the Chooks Okorafor signing. That made me lose my mind, to be honest. And it came on the same day that we lost on Wuzurike for 5.5 million. So I was really bummed, you could say. But everything else, I mean, and these signings, these three down here, these three chuckleheads, Weaver, Tufele, these are not good signings. I mean, hopefully they're just 90-man roster signings, and they're not going to be here. Hopefully. Now, Cisco and Stevens, they're kind of like you're taking flyers on them. They have some skills. We'll have to see. I would say question marks. Chris Boyd is just a special teamer and a good special teamer, so that's important. And he's a backup defensive back, so that's a decent signing. But from the offensive point of view, I'm starting to see the vision with Stone Smart. And if you don't know who he is, again, I did a uh, film study yesterday, came out. Check it out. I think it's about 15 minutes or so of a video, just looking at his pass catching ability, and he does have excellent pass catching ability, so that's good. And the same thing with Tyler Johnson. Tyler Johnson is not a very well known guy. He has not had a ton of production in the league. He's not going to excite people who want fantasy football wide receiver types. He's not that, but he's pretty good at what he does do, and when he got opportunities, he did deliver. He just was behind a lot of wide receivers in Tampa Bay and then also in Los Angeles with the Rams last year. So he could turn into somebody useful in this offense. He's not going to light it up from a fantasy football perspective, but he may be able to do the things that we need him to do. And to me, that's exciting. Me, that's kind of exciting, considering what we all said about attracting people until we start winning and so forth. Well, Jets may need two offensive tackles. Yeah, for sure. Don't see either in the chat. Don't see either. Oh, we're yammering at each other. We also comment on stuff you say, but it shows up real late in the chat feed now. All right, I'll have to check that out. I'm not getting any. Not getting any warnings from Restream. Maybe why don't we put it over here? See if that helps. Big Green says, who needs a gated community when you can have a castle and be king? Doesn't that sound nice? Yeah. Yeah, this is a problem, Jimmy. Wouldn't be so many comments to get to, Frankie, if you didn't talk so much about each subject. Yeah, but I mean, sometimes I want to explain things. 100% agree with Coach Adjustable. Yeah, right. And that's really the way to do it if you think about it. We have an investment in these players. Some of them they're not going anywhere. They're here. We signed them or we drafted them, whatever it may be. And then we're just going to throw them in the garbage can because they can't do something. That's poor coaching. We pay these coaches millions of dollars to coach these people, to coach them. Like it's important that they understand what coaching is. It's not being a cheerleader on the sideline like Robert Sala wants to do. Just give me all 11 elite players and I'll just cheerlead them. No, that's not coaching. That's cheerleading. We already have cheerleaders. Oh wait, the Jets don't have cheerleaders because we're stupid. But most teams have cheerleaders already. They don't need that. They need coaching. Okay. Well, we got Andrew Beck on the roster, Jimmy, but he's a fullback tight end hybrid. He probably won't make the roster at the end of the day. He's currently on there, but who knows? He's a minor signing. I doubt it depends how the rest of the signings in the draft goes, but he's probably not going to make the roster at the end of the day. Right. So I guess we'll call it a day. I don't know about this issue with the chat. I guess I'll have to look into it. Um, so I'll take a look at that. That being said, thank you for joining Coffee with Frankie. Um, if you're new here, why not subscribe to the channel? We're trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers. That will be the next level. And we need a lot of help to get there. So if you're not subscribed, please do so. Otherwise, give the video a thumbs up. That always helps. And if you want to go a little extra, you can always join the inner circle where you get exclusive items, exclusive videos, exclusive documents, scouting sheets, you name it, you get it when you join the inner circle, which is just $5 a month. Helps to support the channel. Exclusive items, exclusive emojis. You get to have a circle and a star next to your name, and hopefully they show up when you do a chat. I don't know. I got to check this chat room now. So, but please consider joining the inner circle. I would say it's the best. Eventually, if we get enough people in the inner circle, there will just be almost exclusive content just for them, and won't put out so much for the general population. And you know, because really, that's a better plan, I think, going forward. But nonetheless, thanks for joining. Subscribe, click the like, the join button, all the buttons. Thank you so much.